First contact failure. In the vast expanse of space, the Galactic Collective Station gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of distant stars. Its intricate spiraling structure housed representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations, each having proven their technological worth to gain membership. For millennia, the collective had been the hub of technological exchange, allowing member species to advance together while carefully evaluating new applicants. Humanity had finally achieved reliable interstellar travel 15 years ago, and after a decade of preparation, Earth's United Coalition was making its formal application to join the collective. The delegation ship Horizon approached the massive station, its crew watching in awe as the structure grew larger in their viewports. Ambassador Alina Chen stood on the bridge, her diplomatic uniform crisp despite the 18-month journey from Earth. She had dedicated her career to this moment. Behind her stood 12 of Earth's finest scientists, military officers, and political representatives, all chosen to showcase humanity's potential to the Collective Council. Approaching Docking Bay E-472, announced the pilot. Collective Control has granted permission to board. Chen turned to her team. Remember, we represent all of humanity. Our technology may not match theirs, but our potential does. Show dignity, humility, and confidence. The Horizon secured itself to the docking port with a gentle thud. As the airlock cycled, Chen took a deep breath. This moment would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. Waiting in the reception chamber were 3 alien representatives. The tallest stood nearly 3 meters high with iridescent scales that shifted colors as it moved. Beside it was a being composed of what appeared to be constantly moving geometric shapes held together by invisible forces. The third resembled a giant arthropod with multiple compound eyes and delicate manipulator appendages. Welcome to the Galactic Collective Station, the scaled being said, its voice translated through the human's communication devices. I am Protocol Officer Zactiel. You will be escorted to the evaluation chamber. The delegation followed their guides through corridors bustling with alien life. Technology beyond human understanding hummed in the walls and ceiling. Energy conduits pulsed with strange light. Gravity shifted subtly as they moved through different sections. In the back of the human group walked Alara Rias, officially listed as the delegation's environmental systems specialist. In reality, she was the Horizon's senior maintenance engineer, brought along to keep the ship's systems functioning during the long journey. Protocol dictated that she accompany the delegation to the station, though no one expected her to participate in the proceedings. Unlike the others who marveled at the alien architecture and technology around them, Rias's trained eyes noticed different things: inefficient energy routing in wall panels, suboptimal coolant distribution, and unusual vibrations in certain structural supports. Years of keeping aging Earth ships operational had given her an intuitive sense for systems that weren't performing at their best. The evaluation chamber was a vast circular room with 13 tall seats arranged in a semicircle. 11 were occupied by representatives of the collective's senior council species. 2 seats remained empty. The human delegation may present their petition, announced a being who appeared to be made of crystalline materials that refracted light in complex patterns. Ambassador Chen stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Esteemed Council, I am Ambassador Alina Chen of Earth's United Coalition. We come seeking membership in the Galactic Collective, offering our technology, resources, and unique perspective in exchange for the opportunity to learn and grow alongside your esteemed civilizations. Dr. Marcus Okafor, Earth's lead scientist, activated a holographic display showing humanity's technological achievements: fusion energy systems, quantum computing, atmospheric restoration techniques, and more. These achievements represent our current capabilities, Chen continued, but more importantly, they demonstrate our rapid rate of advancement and innovative approaches to complex problems. The crystalline being, evidently the council leader, spoke. We are Helith, chair being of the Collective Council. We have reviewed your submission materials and monitored your species development for some time. Your enthusiasm is noted, but your application is premature. Chen felt her heart sink but maintained her diplomatic composure. May I inquire as to the Council's specific concerns? Your technological development is. One counselor began, its multiple mouths speaking in unsettling harmony, rudimentary. Your species has barely mastered your own solar system. Your fusion technology is inefficient, said another, whose body seemed to be constantly shifting between gaseous and solid states. Your quantum systems are elementary. Your material science is centuries behind current collective standards. Helith raised a crystalline appendage. Most significantly, you have made no progress on Dyson-class technology, which is considered the minimal demonstration of energy management capability required for collective membership. Chin glanced at Dr. Okafor, who looked perplexed. Chair being Helith, we are unfamiliar with this specific technology benchmark. Could you elaborate on what constitutes Dyson-class technology in the collective assessment? The ability to efficiently harvest stellar energy through partial stellar encapsulation, Helith explained. Your species has theorized such structures, but has made no practical advances. With respect, Chen replied, our solar collection arrays are highly efficient for our current needs. We haven't prioritized Dyson sphere development because. That is precisely why you are not ready, interrupted a counselor whose body resembled a collection of intertwined vines. A species that cannot harness its star's full potential cannot contribute meaningfully to collective energy initiatives. For 2 hours, the delegation presented additional evidence of human innovation and potential, but the council remained unmoved. Alara stood silently at the back, observing not just the conversation but the room itself. The subtle power fluctuations in the lighting, the way temperatures seemed to vary unnecessarily across the chamber. The faint but consistent vibration in the floor that nobody else seemed to notice. Finally, Helith raised both appendages. The council has reached a decision. The species human is denied membership in the Galactic Collective at this time. You may reapply in 50 standard cycles when your technological development has advanced sufficiently. This audience is concluded. Ambassador Chen maintained her dignity as she bowed once more. We thank the Council for its consideration and will return when we have met your standards. As the dejected delegation made their way back toward the docking bay, Riaz found herself walking beside Ambassador Chen. Ambassador, she said quietly, I think I understand something they don't. Chen gave her a tired look. Not now, Engineer Riaz. We need to prepare our report for Earth. Please, just hear me out, Riaz persisted. The station, it's not as advanced as they want us to believe. Their power systems are inefficient. I can see evidence of it everywhere. Chen slowed her pace. What do you mean? The fluctuations in the lighting, the thermal inconsistencies, they're hallmarks of poor energy distribution. And those vibrations? That's energy being wasted as mechanical resonance. On Earth, we solved these problems decades ago when resource scarcity forced us to maximize efficiency. Dr. Okafor, who had overheard, joined them. Are you suggesting their technology isn't as superior as they claim? I'm suggesting they have different priorities, Alara clarified. They've focused on scale and raw power generation but neglected efficiency and integration. And if I'm right about their approach to energy management, I think I know why they haven't mastered this Dyson technology they mentioned. Ambassador Chen studied the maintenance engineer with new interest. Explain. Dyson structures aren't just about size. They're about precise energy flow management at massive scale. Based on what I've seen of their station systems, they're approaching it wrong. They're trying to build bigger when they should be building smarter. Chen was silent for a moment. And you believe you could demonstrate this, given access to their systems in some time? Yes, I think I could show them an alternative approach, one that might actually work. Protocol Officer Zaktiel approached them. Your vessel is ready for departure. The Council expects you to leave within the hour. Chen straightened her shoulders. Protocol Officer, I request an additional audience with any available Council member. We have a technological demonstration we believe would interest them. Zaktiel's scale shifted to a pattern the humans couldn't interpret. The Council has made its decision. This isn't an appeal, Chen clarified. It's a new proposal, unrelated to our membership application. After some discussion, they were granted a brief meeting with Councillor Neffler, the vine-like being who had been particularly dismissive during their earlier presentation. "You have 10 minutes, Neffler said, tendrils coiling impatiently. Shin gestured for Rias to speak. Stepping forward, the engineer activated her personal data pad. "Counselor, your station's power system operates at approximately 62% efficiency," Alara began without preamble. "I can improve that to at least 85% using principles that might also apply to your Dyson project." Preposterous. Nefer's tendrils stiffened. "That is an absurd claim. Our systems were designed by the galaxy's foremost energy architects." "May I?" Alara held up a small scanning device. When the counselor didn't object, she pointed it toward a nearby wall panel and projected the results. "Your power conduits lose energy through radiation at these junction points. The resonance vibrations we feel throughout the station are wasted energy. Your thermal regulation diverts excess heat into space instead of recapturing it." She quickly sketched a modified design on her pad. "A simple reconfiguration here, and here would recapture at least 15% of currently wasted energy." Neffler was silent for a moment. "How did you identify these inefficiencies so quickly?" "On Earth, we couldn't afford to waste anything," Alara explained. "Resource scarcity drove innovation toward efficiency rather than scale. For centuries, we've had to make more with less." The counselor's tendrils moved in what might have been a gesture of consideration. "And you believe these principles apply to Dyson technology?" "I believe your approach may be fundamentally flawed," Rias said carefully. "You're trying to build enormous structures to capture stellar energy directly, but the engineering challenges of scale are exponential. We would approach it differently." "How?" Nefer asked, genuine curiosity now evident in its voice. "Distributed systems. Smaller, smarter components working in harmony rather than one massive structure. Modular design that allows for continuous improvement without total replacement." Alara paused. "I could demonstrate a proof of concept if given access to your research and facilities." Neffler communicated with someone through some unseen means, then turned back to the humans. "The Council will allow one human to remain on the station for 20 cycles to attempt this demonstration. The rest of your delegation must depart as scheduled." Shin looked at Alara. "Are you willing to stay?" This wasn't her assignment. Rias thought of the aging environmental systems on the horizon that would need attention during the long journey home. She thought of the 18 months she'd be isolated among aliens if she stayed. Then she thought of what success could mean for humanity. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'll stay." As the delegation prepared to leave, Dr. Okafor provided Rias with all the theoretical data Earth had on Dyson Technologies. Ambassador Chen placed a hand on her shoulder. "Engineer Rias, the future of human collective relations now rests with you. No pressure." Chen smiled slightly to soften her words. "I'll do my best, Ambassador." As the horizon disconnected from the station and began its long journey back to Earth, Alara stood in an observation deck watching it shrink to a point of light. She was alone on a station of aliens who believed humans were technologically inferior. "Well," she muttered to herself, "time to prove them wrong." Engineering the impossible. Alara Rias was assigned sparse quarters near the station's maintenance sectors. The room was clearly designed for a different physiology, the sleeping surface too large and oddly shaped, the atmospheric controls set to conditions slightly uncomfortable for humans. She made adjustments where possible and adapted to the rest. Her first meeting with the collective Dyson research team did not go well. "This is Senior Engineer Rias of Earth." Counselor Neffler introduced her to a group of 12 aliens representing various species. "She will be observing our Dyson project and offering perspective." The alien engineers regarded her with expressions she couldn't read, but sensed were skeptical at best, hostile at worst. "I am Project Director Khalif," said a being with metallic skin and 4 arms. "You may observe silently so as not to interfere with our work." "Actually," Alara said, "I was hoping to understand your current approach so I can offer substantive suggestions. Perhaps I could see your models and preliminary designs." Several engineers made sounds her translator couldn't interpret. Khalif's metallic skin rippled in what seemed like irritation. "Very well. You may review the public documentation. By public documentation, Alara discovered they meant a highly simplified overview that contained little technical detail. It was like trying to understand a fusion reactor from a children's science book. Still, even this limited information confirmed her suspicions. The collective's approach to Dyson technology was fundamentally flawed. They were attempting to build massive rigid structures to encircle portions of stars, essentially trying to create partial Dyson spheres as single unified constructs. The engineering challenges were insurmountable: material stress, gravitational interference, thermal expansion. No wonder they'd made little progress despite centuries of effort. After 3 days of being sidelined, Alara approached Nethler. "Counselor, I'm not being given meaningful access to the project. I can't help if I'm kept in the dark." Neffler's tendrils writhed. The research team is protective of their work. They have invested many cycles in this project. "Then let me work independently," Rhea suggested. "Give me access to a small lab and basic materials. I'll demonstrate my approach without disrupting their work." To her surprise, Nethler agreed. Alara was assigned a small laboratory space that had clearly been used for some time. The equipment was unfamiliar, but the physical principles remained the same. She spent days learning to use the alien tools and materials, often working through what would have been night on Earth. During her second week, a young alien researcher appeared at her lab door. The being had a translucent body through which complex internal structures could be seen pulsing with bioluminescent light. "I am Sindri," the alien said, "junior researcher on the Dyson project. I am curious about your work." Alara welcomed the company. "I'm trying to build a proof of concept for an alternative approach to stellar energy collection. Our team believes your species is too primitive to understand the complexities involved," Sindri said with disarming frankness. Rhea smiled. "Sometimes being primitive means you're not locked into conventional thinking. Would you like to help me? I could use someone familiar with your materials and equipment." Sindri hesitated, then agreed. Over the following days, the alien became a regular visitor, asking insightful questions and offering valuable suggestions about working with collective technology. "Your approach is unusual," Sindri commented as they worked together on a small prototype. "We focus on creating structures to capture stellar energy directly." "You're building what exactly?" "A swarm array of independent collectors," Rhea explained. "Each unit is small, but they work together as a system, like cells in an organism or bees in a hive." "But how will they maintain position without a structural framework?" "They won't need to. Each unit will use the star's own radiation pressure to achieve orbital equilibrium. They'll essentially float on the light itself." Cinder's internal lights pulsed rapidly. "That is elegant. But the energy transfer between units would be inefficient across such distances." "That's where this comes in." Rhea showed Sindri a tiny device she had been developing. "It's a quantum-entangled energy transmitter. Earth developed similar technology for our Mars colonies. Energy harvested by any collector can be instantly transferred to any other collector without loss." "Quantum entanglement at that scale would be unstable," Sindri objected. "Not with this stabilization method." Rhea displayed the complex equation she had developed. "The system actually becomes more stable as more units are added to the network." Sindri stared at the equations, internal lights dancing. "This contradicts established theory." "Yes, it does," Alara agreed. "Sometimes you have to throw out the rule book to solve an impossible problem." Word of Rhea's work began to spread. Other junior researchers visited her lab, initially out of curiosity or skepticism, then increasingly to contribute ideas. Project Director Khalif remained dismissive, but Rhea didn't care. She was making progress. By the beginning of her third week, she had completed a functioning prototype. It wasn't a true Dyson system. It would require thousands of units for that. But it demonstrated the principle with a dozen small collector units orbiting a powerful light source. Counselor Nethler came to observe the demonstration. "Explain what I am seeing," Engineer Rhea. "Each of these collectors," Alara indicated the tiny devices orbiting the light source, "harvests energy independently. They maintain position using only the pressure of the light itself, adjusting with microscopic thrusters. The energy they collect is transferred through quantum entanglement to this central receiver. She activated the system. The small collectors began to glow as they absorbed energy, and the central receiver's indicators showed increasing power levels. The beauty of this system is its resilience and scalability, Riaz continued. If one collector fails, the others continue functioning. We can add new units or remove old ones without shutting down the system, and they can be manufactured and deployed incrementally, spreading the resource investment over time. Nefler was silent for a long moment. This is not what we expected from your species. Humans are good at finding indirect solutions, Riaz said. When you can't go through a wall, you look for a door. When there is no door, you build one. The Council will want to see this, Nefler decided. Prepare for a formal demonstration in 2 days. The news that a human would be presenting to the Council spread quickly through the station. The day before her scheduled presentation, Alara arrived at her lab to find it in disarray. Equipment was damaged, her prototype dismantled, and her data storage devices wiped clean. She stood amid the wreckage, fighting back tears of frustration. Months of work destroyed. She had backed up her most important designs on her personal Earth device, but rebuilding the prototype in time seemed impossible. Sindri arrived an hour later and froze upon seeing the destruction. Who did this? I have my suspicions, Alara said grimly, but no proof. Project Director Khalif has been saying your work threatens decades of collective research funding, Sindri admitted. But I did not think anyone would go this far. Alara took a deep breath. I need to rebuild enough of the prototype to demonstrate the principle by tomorrow. Will you help me? Sindri's internal lights pulsed with determination. I will, and I will contact others. Within hours, 5 junior researchers from various species had joined them. Each brought materials, tools, and expertise. They worked through the night, improvising solutions when exact replacements weren't available. By morning, they had reconstructed a simplified version of the prototype, not as elegant as the original, but functional enough to demonstrate the core principles. Riaz had barely time to clean herself up before the council session. She arrived at the evaluation chamber exhausted but determined, her makeshift prototype carefully transported by Sindri and another researcher. All 13 council seats were filled this time. Alara recognized most of the beings from her previous appearance with the Earth delegation, but 2 were new to her. Project Director Khalif was also present, standing rigidly to one side. Engineer Riaz, Chair being Helith began, you have requested this audience to present an alternative approach to Dyson technology. The Council is intrigued by Councillor Nefler's preliminary report. You may proceed. Alara gestured for her assistants to set up the prototype in the center of the chamber. As they did, she explained her approach, emphasizing how it differed from conventional Dyson theory. Rather than building a single massive structure, she concluded, we create a cooperative network of independent units. The system is resilient, adaptable, and can be deployed progressively. She activated the prototype. The tiny collectors took up orbits around the light source and began harvesting energy, transferring it to the receiver. The power indicator rose steadily. This is merely a simple demonstration, Alara added. A full-scale system would involve millions of collectors, but the principle remains the same. And importantly, it solves the fundamental engineering problems that have prevented traditional Dyson structure development. Project Director Khalif stepped forward. This toy proves nothing. A star is not a lamp. The gravitational and radiation conditions are entirely different. The physics are scalable, Alara countered. I've run simulations using stellar models. Simulations based on primitive human understanding, Khalif interrupted. Actually, came a voice from the entrance to the chamber. Her calculations are correct. All eyes turned to see a group of junior researchers entering, led by Sindri. Each carried data displays showing various analyses and simulations. We have independently verified Engineer Riaz's work, Sindri announced. The approach is viable at stellar scale. Moreover, we have identified 17 applications for this technology beyond Dyson structures, including improvements to our own station power systems. Khalif's metallic skin darkened. This is irregular. These junior researchers have no authority. Science is not about authority, Alara interjected. It's about evidence and results. The council chamber erupted in multiple alien languages as counselors debated among themselves. Finally, Chair being Helith raised both crystalline appendages for silence. Engineer Rias, your demonstration is compelling. However, there remains a significant difference between a laboratory prototype and a stellar-scale implementation. I agree, Alara said. That's why I'm proposing a phased approach. We start by applying these principles to improve the station's power systems, then scale up to a small orbital test around a red dwarf star. Each success builds toward the full Dyson implementation. An interesting proposal. Helitha's crystal structure refracted light thoughtfully. And what does Earth seek in exchange for this technology? Rias stood straighter. Recognition of human innovation and reconsideration of Earth's application to the collective. We don't ask for full membership immediately, just the opportunity to prove our worth through collaborative projects like this one. The council conferred privately for several minutes while Alara waited, heart pounding. Finally, Helith addressed her again. The council has reached a decision. Earth will be granted provisional associate status within the Galactic Collective, with a path to full membership based on successful implementation of this Dyson technology. Additionally, Engineer Rias will be appointed to lead a joint human collective research team on Dyson implementation. Alara could hardly believe what she was hearing. Thank you, Chair being Helith. Earth will be honored by this opportunity. There is more, Helith continued. Your observations about our station's power and efficiencies are correct. We have grown complacent in certain areas of technology. Perhaps there is more we can learn from your primitive perspective than we initially recognized. As the session concluded, Sindri approached Rias. You have changed everything. Many of us have begun to believe the Dyson project was impossible. Nothing's impossible, Alara replied. Sometimes you just need a fresh perspective. Later, alone in her quarters, Alara recorded a message to be transmitted to the horizon, still many months from reaching Earth. She kept it simple. Ambassador Chen, mission accomplished. Tell Earth to prepare for collective membership and to send engineers. Lots of engineers. We have a star to harness. 6 months later, a new human delegation arrived at the collective station. Ambassador Chen led them into the evaluation chamber where the council waited, but with a significant difference. Where once there had been 13 seats arranged in a semicircle, there now stood 14. The newest seat, still empty, bore the emblem of Earth. Rias stood with the collective representatives, now wearing the insignia of a senior project director. As Chen approached, Rias smiled and gestured to the chamber around them. Welcome back, Ambassador. Notice anything different? Chen looked up at the lighting, steady, and even without the fluctuations Alara had pointed out months ago. The floor was solid beneath her feet, the previous vibrations gone. The temperature was perfectly regulated. You've been busy, Chen observed. This is just the beginning, Alara replied. Wait until you see what we're building around Proxima Centauri. Chair being Helitha's crystalline form caught the light as it moved forward. The human delegation is recognized. Please take your place among the collective. As Ambassador Chen took her seat on the council, Rias felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through military might or political maneuvering, but through the same qualities that had defined it throughout history: resourcefulness, innovation, and the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Sometimes the most powerful technology wasn't the biggest or the most complex. Sometimes it was simply the smartest approach to a challenge that seemed impossible. And sometimes the most valuable perspective came from those who had been forced to do more with less, who had learned efficiency not as a choice but as a necessity for survival. As Earth took its place in the Galactic Collective, Alara knew this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, and humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun.